Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to this edition of Yorkville Sports. You're in the nest, the Eagles Nest, and I'm your host, Joe Patrick. And to my left, or is that my left, your right, is Daquan Hawkins. Daquan Hawkins is the director of the travel basketball program, the tackle football program, the recreation program, the basketball recreation program. And you know, I keep saying it's so cold outside. Daquan, I need one of those hats of yours.
I don't have any hats. I didn't even wear a hat today.
You didn't wear
I didn't wear a hat
all right.
today.
Well, then, as it is, you see that I need. Can I get a couple of strands of that? You know, a couple of follicles or something. Maybe I can use.
If we got to pitch a shout out to Rogan or somebody.
Oh God,
saying.
this is nuts.
I'm just saying.
So you know, I don't know what we did to warrant this visit, but you know, this is the second week in a row. We couldn't get Daquan in 4 years to come here for 2 weeks in a row, but he's back for the second week to tell us about this basketball program. So Daquan, last week was a pretty good one for us.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, our fifth grade team competed. They went down early against their opponent, and they ended up fighting back. Unfortunately, they suffered a 1-point loss at the end of the game, but you know, the last 3 games for them have been 1-point games. So it shows that they're being competitive, they're staying in games, they're fighting hard, the coaches are doing what they got to do to put them in a position to win. And you know, when it's that close, you're going to lose some, you're going to win some. So this one, unfortunately, was a loss, but I'm sure they'll get everything right for this weekend.
Well, you know, if we were playing a doubleheader, perhaps they would have won the next game by 1. Who never knows? We have to do a little course correcting on all the teams. I just have to tell you, last week I misquoted I told you the wrong teams. So last week the Yorkville 5th grade team played the Downtown Giants. All right, so that is the correction. They played the Downtown Giants the week before, and last week on the 17th we played Fast Break Black. Okay, so on Court 4. I'm sorry. So that's the correction. We'll correct the 6th grade when we get around there. So how do our 6th grades do?
Well, 6th graders, this weekend for them was a breeze. I mean, they beat their opponent this weekend by about 25 points, legit. They were up the whole way. And they pretty much just outmatched their opponent. They played very well. They played an outstanding defense. They were able to put the ball in the basket. Coach Lou did a great job coaching them throughout the game. You know, it was just they just, you know, overwhelmed their opponent this week.
All right. Well, that's what we have to do in terms of staying consistent. And even on the 5th grade level, even though the boys, you know, they lost their game last week, but I do have to tell you that consistency makes for champions. You know, as long as you're winning consistently week in and week out, and even if you're losing, but the way the 5th grade team lost, that's a good thing. You know, they lost good.
Yeah.
They lost good, you know. And the 6th grade team is just doing their thing. Don't want to take nothing away from those boys. And on the 10th of January, they played a doubleheader. I misread the actual teams they played, but at 1:30 p.m. they played the Fast Break Black on Court 5, and then they at 3:45 they played the BSNY Titans. All right, on Court 4. So that was the correction. And then the 17th, which was actually last week, they played the NYC Trojans. So there you go. So that 6th grade team, what is the outlook for these guys?
Well, I mean, right now their record is sort of in the middle of the road for them. So with the way the league is set up, they should get a good enough seed where once we go into the playoffs, they should be able to compete and at least get to the point where they can get to that level where they can possibly compete for a championship. They just have some opponents that give them a hard time, and that's what practice is for, just making them ready for that game. And that's what I think Coach Lou and Coach David are going to focus on, is getting them ready for the opponents that they've lost to this season, which they've lost to 2 of them. So right now their outlook is to make the playoffs, make the playoffs and be ready to face our toughest opponents.
All right. Well, let's talk about the 5th and the 6th grade teams. Their records. The 5th grade, our 5th grade team is 3-2. They're above 500. Mm-hmm. You know, our 6th grade team is 4-2. They're above 500. So with that being said, our hats are off to our 5th and 6th grade teams. You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up. You know, keep bouncing that ball. You know, if you watch that kid, Steph Curry, No. Wait a second. Let's dial that back. Kristoff. Anybody can tell me his last name?
Porzingis?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, the Knicks have a good team now.
They're good this year.
They're getting better.
They're better than this year than what they were last year.
All
which
right.
is good.
Well, that's all it is. The Yorkville Eagles are better this year than they were any other year. So that's what I'm talking about. But we have to talk about those boys. Them boys, I'm trying to tell you, them boys that you take the dice, you put them in your hand, 7. You win all the time when you hit them 7s. You go to Vegas or whatever the case, you pull that 7s come up. You know what happens? 6-0, them boys. 6-0, them 7th grade boys. Tell us about them guys.
The 7th graders, they're a fantastic group of kids, man. They competed against the team last week. When the week before it was a closer game. This week we went into this game without arguably our best basketball player on the team, and they managed to pull out a bigger victory against the same opponent. So they really willed themselves to the victory. They worked together. They went back to doing what they did well, and that's the small things that matter. Boxing out, communicating on defense, things like that, and that really gave their opponents this past week a hard time against us. And even the referees looked and said, "Where's your best player?" Because the league thinks that he's our best player, but the way Coach JR approaches the team and I is they're a team.
Right.
So there's no best player on that team. They're a team. So we're going to move the way we move. When one person can't be there, next man up. Next man's got to step in and fill that void, and that's exactly what happened this weekend, and that's why they're 6-0 right now with a big bullseye on their backs. Mm-hmm. Every opponent now is preparing for these guys, and they understand the challenge that's set forth in front of them. They just have to stay true to their laurels. They have to stay true to what they've been doing for now almost a year, and that's the fundamentals. Boxing out, communicating, play sound defense, give other teams hard times. That's what they got to do, and they've been doing it. So that's what credits them to their 6-0 record.
Well, they say you're only as good as your weakest link, and when your strongest link is out, and the weakest link steps up, and is still able to hold that chain together, where you can't break that chain. You know what? Well, we're not going to talk about chains, but it's okay. Our guys know exactly what to do with the rock. They have good coaching. They're in a good program. They got a good director. You know what I'm saying? This guy over here, 2 weeks in a row back here, just ingratiating us with his presence. But, our Yorkville 7th grade team, they're 6-0. It seems like the team is in good hands. I know, we don't want to jump too far ahead of ourselves here, because with winning comes losing. That's a ball. We're in the baseball academy. That ball hit there. I think they was throwing it at the back of one of our heads. I guess.
Probably.
But with winning comes losing too. Now we haven't. The 7th grade team hasn't suffered a loss yet, but it might be around the corner. But it's how you bounce back. And so far, they haven't had to really experience that.
Yeah.
So, but are they prepared?
Well, you can never be prepared for a loss, right? It's just an outcome to a game. Right. So right now, what Coach JR is putting in the boys' heads to not even think about a loss. Right. We approach every game the way we approach every game. And we stay true to our fundamentals. And we continue to compete and be aggressive on both ends. So right now, with every win, the next game becomes more and more difficult because you don't want to lose. But Coach JR has been able to keep them at a very cool head so they can just compete in every game and just stay true to what they've been doing for all this time. Yeah. If it so happens that they lose a game, we're still proud of them either way. But we don't even want to think about that because we don't want them to think about that.
That's true.
We want them to keep their eyes on the prize, and that's what the message was even last night in practice. Okay. It's like now, last year they didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? There was probably not even a tunnel. This year, not only are they in the tunnel, but the light is clear. and they know that their goal with the way this team is going, as to the goal with all of our teams, is to win, is to compete for championships.
Right.
So with the success that this team is having, we want them to continue to push forward and compete and bring home a championship. That's what we do this for. That's why we create our teams. That's why we do what we do.
So the difference between last year, because I would assume that a good bit of the boys that are on that 7th grade team played with each other last year. I believe you told me about 5 or 6 of them were with the team last year. So what is the difference between last year and this year? Do you think it's that they've just matured, not only as players, but as individuals themselves? They know each other a little better. The camaraderie is a little better, the cohesiveness. What do you contribute that to?
I definitely think that the chemistry, the camaraderie has definitely grown. And last year, look, they took a lot of lumps, right? It took a lot of bumps and bruises last year from some of their opponents, and that's a learning experience. And that's what a lot of people don't really get the concept of sometimes, and that's what can make or break a program, is sometimes when new players come into something in a higher level of travel sports, there's a learning curve.
Right.
And you have to go into that knowing that your first year you might not be successful as a team. But if you continue to practice, you continue to work hard, you try to keep the team together. So with this team, there's probably 6 guys that played last winter. We had another 2 additional players play in the spring. So we've been able to keep 8 of these guys together.
Oh, okay.
With the addition of 2 more guys that Coach JR managed to bring onto the team as well. So if you have 8 kids that play together and that buy into what we're trying to sell them, which is stay in the course, then this is the outcome that they want to achieve, that we want to achieve as coaches and directors, and that the program should want to achieve as well. So that's what happened is when you keep everybody together, the chemistry's fantastic. And what they was lacking for a long time, and I've spoken to this with some of the coaches and the parents, is they needed an X factor. They needed one person that could carry the team and put them on their back when they need it, and we got that person. That person, wasn't able to make the game, and the team was still able to perform at a high level without him. And that's just the maturity, like you said, of the team in general, is just the way they've come together, and they care about each other. Like when you put all of this together on one team, it's scary. And you mentioned Steph Curry earlier. That's the Warriors, right? They care about each other, and that's what this team sort of emulates with that as well. I know they're not trying to emulate the Warriors, but they care.
Right.
And that goes a long way. The coach cares, the players care, and the families care. So the chemistry is positive. Everyone's super supportive. And when you have that kind of support, that's when the outcomes always become positive.
Okay. All right. Well, there you have it. That's the report for this week. We have all 3 of our teams were in effect. We got a loss last week. 1 loss, but it's okay. Our boys are still over 500. All of the teams are over 500, and our 7th grade team, they're undefeated. So I don't think any team in that division can even boast of having an undefeated season right now. Can it?
No, I don't think any other team in that division is undefeated.
All right, well, there you have it.
Sole possession in first place.
Okay. That's what happens when you mess with them Eagles, because as Eagles, we fly higher than everybody else. And we come down on whole teams with our talents, and we grab them by the talents and shake them around and shake things up to bring about the best travel program in the city, and that's the Yorkville Eagles. And if you want to hear more about those Yorkville Eagles, all you have to do is log on to yyaa.org, click on the program of your choice, check out those Eagles. And just call us if you want to at 212-360-0022. And as I said before, Daquan Hawkins answers the phone. You can ask for him. You don't even have to ask him. He answers the phone. Hello. That's it. Call him up, and he'll talk to you about all the programs we have. So that's it. Daquan, you want to close it out? Is there anything else you want to tell these guys out there?
One thing, and Joe's probably going to say this too, pictures, videos, comments, send them in.
That's it. We want to hear from you. You know what, guys? I'll put it to you like this. I'm laying it down to all the boys out there. Listen, it's up on the screen, news at yyaa.org. You guys Write me and tell us about your experience. Tell us about your game. What did you do? If your parents ain't doing it, you do it. Let's show them how to do it. Tell us about the game that you had, and we'll get it up on the air. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about you. You're worth talking about. You think so? Okay, credits are rolling. We'll see you next week.